All right, Judd'z Budz, episode 125. The Wayne Gretzky plus the late, yes, dead Connor Dewar episode. As always, your host, Spokesy, joined by my good buddy, Mr. At State of Hoppy, and a lot of other friends. Let's just keep it going because we're not gonna do that full intro.
Yeah, no, we're not doing that every time.
Whoa, we're all wearing the same clothes. That's crazy.
Wow. Oh my. That's disgusting.
What a coincidence.
Matt Boulder would be pissed.
Purely a coincidence.
Yeah, probably golfing somewhere instead of focusing on hockey.
Wow. Loser.
Yeah, screw him. Recap from last week. We covered 21 through 25 of Judd'z Budz. That's right, all of the Minnesota Wild prospect pool. 21, Mikey Milne. 22, Ryan O'Rourke. 23, Graeme Clarke. 24, Calem Parker. 25, Luke Toporowski. Back with us again, we got Judd'z Budz and Sota Pod representation, Z, myself, and Isha. And we've got, formerly known as Sound the Foghorn, we got Baki, we got Brett, we got Zeke. We're rolling right back into it with our top 16 through 20 of the prospect pool. And to open it up with 20, we've got Sebastian Soini, who, I don't know, it feels like this is a guy that just immediately has grabbed everyone's attention. I don't know how much we want to say that the World Junior Summer Showcase has to do with it versus people just learning who he is now based on being selected by the Wild, but who wants to lead in here?
I can jump on that one. Again, after this year's draft, Soini was one guy that I have specifically mentioned multiple times that I'm going to be watching with a more closely than a lot of other prospects this year. First of all, just nice to have prospect in Finland playing again, but such an intriguing skill set. I mean, he's 6'2", right shot D-man. So like the second that someone says the Minnesota Wild have a right shot D in their prospect pool, I'm like, oh, my ears perk up. But just the raw tools, the skill set is just incredibly intriguing. Like, he is a very good skater, really nice hands. Defensively, he's fine. And there should be a little bit more upside with him. Like, he's kind of got the brunt end of like just some not so kind World Junior selection / U18 World Championship selection from Finland. Like, they are Team Finland right now. They're international. Like, their junior hockey is they're all over the place. But in terms of just like the profile, the tools, an incredibly intriguing player with how well he moves. The fact that his right shot, he's as big as he is. I think he probably should have played U20 in Finland last year versus playing pro hockey. He played in their AHL over there. And there were plenty of shifts where you see why, like, he was at one point looked at quite fondly as a Finnish prospect. And then there's some other times where you're like, he probably should not be playing pro hockey right now. So with him, the big question is just going to be like, can he settle down and start making more like just the decision making, when to go, when to stay, like when to actually like exercise some of the tools that he has in his tool set in terms of his offense, because they're there. He just doesn't use them very often, or he just doesn't use them at the right time. So I really like the player profile. I think he gives the back end in this prospect pool something that was pretty lacking on the right side, at least. So there is an intriguing or like a toolbox that hasn't necessarily put it all together. You know what I mean? Like, he's got everything that you could ask for. You're just waiting for him to put it together. So this will be a very interesting year to watch him. He's playing with Ilves this year in Liga. It's a really good team. So I'll be curious to see what kind of ice time he gets, what role he has there. But I really, really, really like the tools and the profile. So definitely one to watch because there's definitely some upside there.
Yeah, I think my 26 ranking is just more along because I don't know a ton about him. I know he has some good mobility, some good quickness. He did well in that summer showcase. I think he had like 3 points in 7 games or something. I can certainly see him making a jump in my rankings like mid-season, but 26 might be kind of unfair just because I don't know a whole lot about him and haven't watched him a whole lot other than the showcase. Didn't really watch him in the showcase, just paid attention more since we drafted him.
Sure. Z, I gotta ask, who would win in a fight, Meth Bear or Shroom Lion?
This logo is absolutely diabolical.
Oh, so this is the same. This is the same team that Simon Johansson played on. R.I.P. Simon Johansson, also the late Simon Johansson, because they didn't sign it. They didn't give him a queue up, so he's dead. That barn is absolutely it is.
Is it literally a barn?
Yeah, shut the fuck
because it looks like that low quality of a fucking logo that they play literally in a barn.
Go fucking do a live show about the UFC for fuck's sake. But like that league too, they have the on ice, like they're like in World Juniors, and how they would have the guy with the camera that's like they're blending him into the ice, so they have like the full white suit. They do that every game, at least for Ilves. It is a unbelievable production every time, every home game for them, and that place is insane. Like one of the best atmospheres like in the world for pro hockey. It's so fun to watch. So very excited to be able to watch not just the Finnish Liga, but this team specifically. And their jerseys are sick. So big fan.
Is he like projected to play there full time this year? Because I know he's had like a cup of coffee with them his last 2 years.
Yeah, no, he should be probably playing on their third pair this year.
Okay.
Does anyone else feel like this logo here is like, you know, the Finland logo that he's got there for Team Finland? They basically went to Brock Faber and said, hey, can you draw what that guy's face looks like? Yeah. Shout out to our friends at Waggle Golf. They're the best.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, when do we get Mushroom Cat on a Waggle hat?
Good question. People want to know.
I got a question.
At our next meeting.
What would this cat's roar sound like?
I don't think it's a roar. I think it's like if you step on a cat's tail when it makes kind of that like screech. I think that's
Zeke. I feel like this is right up Zeke's alley. Zeke, what do the noise? What noise?
Do the noise. Oh god.
Please.
Oh god.
You don't have to do it.
I don't. I'm trying. I don't know.
That was, I think, the most accurate that anyone could have made that.
All right. Sebastian Soini just went up my ranks by like 7 points.
Yeah, he's top on that.
Electric. Holy shit. All right. We need to keep moving along, guys. Jesus Christ. So that was Sebastian Soini, 20. You guys learned so much. Number 19. Kyle Masters, which before I even pull up the rankings, I just immediately know Z has to be the highest. Yep, there he is. I know Z's going to have plenty to say. Does anyone want to step in before Z? Because Kyle Masters is like his Kalen Addison.
Oh, I love Kyle Masters. I know he had a good season in the ECHL. I just like to see him get more time in the AHL. I loved his game in the WHL, and I just want to see him, make that step to the AHL and then make an impact there, and then maybe NHL from there. But yeah, good ECHL season. I'd love to see his AHL season.
Yeah, I'm glad they did him a favor and not put him in the AHL this year, because that just would have probably just hampered him a little bit, given how bad they were.
Yeah, he was kind of like said to be a little bit more of a project from the get-go, like a guy that's going to have a little bit longer development timeline maybe than some other players. But like, I think you've seen the right steps kind of each year from, doing well in the CHL, and then, last year doing decently well in the ECHL. So like you're slowly starting to see like that progression. So I think this is a huge year for him. If he earns a spot in Iowa, can he continue to keep taking that next step and not plateau like we've seen a little bit from a couple of these other guys?
Swoon away, Z.
I mean, he's my son. He is my prospect pool son. Again, same thing we say about him every time. Like when he was in Red Deer, the most anti-Kyle Masters system humanly possible, where it is just like, yeah, you can like cook in your own end hit everybody, hit everything that moves, break the puck out for us, and then get off the ice. Didn't really get much of an offensive look whatsoever. We were clamoring for him to get traded to any WHL team that would let him run wild. And that trade to Kamloops could not have been the most perfect scenario possible, where he went from 14 points in 65 games with Red Deer, and then he goes to Kamloops, puts up 65 points in 66 games. But I just think he plays such a projectable game. Like Brett said, when they drafted him, the commentary around that is like, this is a guy that you wait 4, 5, maybe even 6 years before he's a full-time NHL player. But in the meantime, like the base layer of tools, the skill set that he already has lends itself very well to an NHL future, and especially where the NHL is going in terms of like defensemen that maybe they're not going to put up 1 million points in the NHL, but who are the guys that play second pair, third pair minutes, but log still on a team that plays those guys a lot. Kyle Masters absolutely fits that mold, where he might be your second or third pair guy, but he can easily give you 16, 17, 18 minutes of just really solid two-way hockey. I just love the player. He's very fun to watch. And it was nice because once he was in Kamloops and was asked to actually like make projectable offensive plays, he didn't just do the thing where he just ends up in like where the blue line meets the wall, aka the corner of death, and just like throws the puck on net. That was pretty much all 16 of his points in Red Deer was just doing that shit. But then in Kamloops, they actually let him just cook. So I think there is some serious upside with him. I think he should make that Iowa Wild roster out of camp. And stick there and not go back down to the ECHL. Again, he's still a couple years away from being NHL ready, but I think he just plays such a projectable game in terms of the transition game. He's unforecheckable. Like you cannot forecheck him. It's phenomenal to watch. Very fun. So I just like his game a ton. Makes everyone's lives easier on the ice. Like the forwards pretty much can just hang out right around the blue line once it gets dumped in, and he's going to go retrieve. He's going to hit you with the first pass, or he's going to do it himself. So I like Kyle Masters a lot, and obviously put him at 15.
By the way, I have to just chime in here because someone might comment this soon based on you calling him your draft son. Hoppy, no joke. From someone commented like last week on one of your guys' videos from like last year talking about Kalen Addison and going, wait, one of you guys are actually his dad?
Yes. Yes.
My kid probably weighs about as much as him now at 7 months. So
that is true.
Yeah. What the 2020 3 draft? 2023. Was that Matejchuk? Either way, his dad randomly started messaging me on Twitter. He's like, "Thank you for pumping out the Matejchuk content." I was like, "Absolutely, bro.
That's
no
awesome.
problem."
More or less messages than relatives of the golfer on the Wild.
No, Dad, no one's gonna top that. No one, impossible.
Relatives, or is it the one single relative?
One.
Yeah.
Like, well, there's that one. Yeah.
Shout out Auntie Boldy, who is not on the Boldy side of the family.
You said it, not me. We have to bleep that out. She specifically. That person specifically, like, do not. I already got in trouble with my first account.
Oh, so there's your Kyle Masters. And
she just told me I couldn't say her name. I didn't say her name.
Oh, yeah, I guess her name. Pretty much. All right, we've wrapped up our Kyle Masters talk. So that's number 19, Kyle Masters. Here we go.
Hey, take a drink every time there's an obscure Boldy reference in this episode.
Oh God,
because you'd be at like 4 or 5 already.
I did buy 30 beers.
All right, number 18. Undeniably the smartest player in the Minnesota Wild prospect pool. Ryan Healey. If I have to explain why he's the smartest, then maybe this is a little bit too advanced for you.
It's because he goes to Harvard.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Baki.
A light bulb just went off for somebody somewhere. So
there you go.
That really worries me.
I liked him talking to, well, actually literally on this edition of the show last year. I mean, everyone kind of chimed in with like how high of an upside that there is in this player. He just didn't get the minutes, just didn't get the opportunity. And this year he did, and it showed. So I always knew that there was something there with this guy. And my God, for a right-handed defenseman, he played so well this year. So like, I mean, all of us have him relatively high on our list. I know the Sound the Foghorn boys have him a little bit higher, kind of, but
kind of.
kind of, except for Baki. But
anyone listening, if you want to see everyone's individual rankings for each player, make sure you're checking out the YouTube channel, The Sota Pod.
Yeah, so I don't know. I was just super stoked on how his points rose so much with the opportunity. Obviously, a little bit of speed bumps, a little bit for him still to polish up, but you can definitely see that, like, okay, that high ceiling that we all projected he had is there. And, you know, he's going back to Harvard for one more year, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or he's going back to school for another year. So we'll see how he looks next year. But again, I imagine he's going to be even better next year. Even if like the points are similar, he'll probably polish up some of those defensive woes. And then, which, you know, aren't many, to be perfectly honest. And then at the pro level, it's going to be fun to see what he can bring.
Yeah, I mean, he had a pretty decent season at Harvard, 22 points, 29 games, brought plenty of offense. That Harvard team was pretty awful, so he was probably one of their best players. I mean, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does this year in Harvard, and if he can continue to put up similar points, like you said, Isha. That's about all I have to say about him. His offense.
He's a lanky, skinny boy, though. He needs to hit the weight room a little bit because he's tall, but like, man, he's like, and it's not like he got knocked off the puck too much. But I feel like if he adds a little bit of like size, eats a little bit more chicken with his rice, like he'll be good.
I think, you know, obviously the offense is there. I think there's something to be desired yet on the defensive development of his game. Which as a younger defenseman, that's usually kind of the hardest thing to develop. So I'm looking to see what he can do this year, because that Harvard team last year was pretty good and you know, on the ice for a lot of goals against last year, unfortunately, but you know, was able to bring the offense at the other end to offset it a little bit. But you'd like to see that step forward this year. The other thing, he's got, you know, kind of they've got a really good defensive group in Harvard. I think going into this year, I want to say they have like 7 NHL drafted defensemen on that roster. And I think they've had that the last couple of years too. So, you know, if he's a guy that can win out minutes against other players that have been identified as NHL talents, I think that bodes well for him. I'm really looking forward to hopefully seeing a step forward defensively while still maintaining that higher level of offense that we've seen so far.
Yeah, like even if he puts like 20 points up or 22 points up next year, but like his defensive game drastically goes up, then it's like, all right, like I'm not even concerned about the points because he polished up what needed to be developed a bit more. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would. So last year was the first year in a long time that Harvard was not like a top 15 team. Like they were pretty bad. And he was thrown out there pretty much every other shift. So he was there. I mean, I think he did get hurt at the end of the year, right before the playoffs. And then he came back, I think their last game, but he finished, I think, second on the team in points. Like he was pretty much their go-to guy, like offense and defense. So like the plus minus took a massive hit, obviously, just like the rest of their roster. So this year should be a bounce back year for Harvard. They've got a really nice recruiting class. They've got a bunch of returning NHL guys. So I think he'll get either the same amount of minutes or even more on a better team. So I would expect that this is going to be another good year for a kid like Ryan Healey. Again, the way that he plays, like, I don't think I've ever seen him stand still on the ice. Like, he always plays in motion, and I love it. Like, in the offensive zone, too, like, he might be, like, taking the puck at the point, then he passes it, and then all of a sudden he's picking it up behind the other team's net. It's like, how did he get in Gretzky's office? Like, he was actually just walking the blue line 2 seconds ago. But just he is an eye-catching player every time he steps over the boards, and I love the fact that every time he touches the puck, he wants to make a play. He's not interested in just like dumping the puck in or just making like meat and potatoes play. He wants to make something happen. And this year with Harvard, like more often than not, he did. Like he was pretty close to a point per game. But yeah, no, the all around game, the defensive game definitely needs to take a step forward. This year is going to be probably the year to get a better like judgment on that, just given the fact that like that team last year got fucking absolutely pulverized almost every game, which happens when like I think they had 4 or 5 of their guys decide to go to the NHL. They did like the Logan Cooley, where it was like right before the year started. They're like, we're gonna go, and they were left pretty like bare. But this year they've got a bunch of guys coming back that were drafted, bunch of returning players, so they should be pretty good again. So this is gonna be another fun year to watch Healey. But he is a fun player to watch. Like, he's awesome. So big fan.
Still too soon with the Cooley comments, but we'll glaze over that.
Hey, we're desensitizing you. All right, this is conversion therapy.
Wait, do you have a Utah Cooley?
We'll live this again. Live it again.
Live it again. Live it again. All right, that's number 18. Ryan Healey. 17. Jack Peart. Here we go. I don't know. This is one that I'm going to be honest, for me, out of the whole pool, I am least sure of how good or not good Jack Peart might be moving forward.
I wouldn't say whole pool, but I think for sure among the defensemen, I'm kind of in that same boat.
Fair.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like from everything I've kind of read, limited stuff, it doesn't seem like he's maybe like took some big huge step in college either 3 years. So I was almost a little surprised that he had signed after this year and didn't stay the full 4 there. But
well, I'm sure the Wild pressured him pretty heavily.
Yeah, so that's true. Yeah, so I mean, maybe there's something there, but that's just kind of the impression I got is that it doesn't seem like he's like taken many huge like steps, and I don't think like his offense has like necessarily been exactly what it seemed like it might have been, but he's still got maybe a decent chance of being a player eventually. Who knows?
He's just had such a weird path. Like, I mean, we've talked about him plenty the past couple of years, and he's a guy that did way more than we expected as a freshman, because you go in as a true freshman and start for St. Cloud. That is pretty uncommon, and did a pretty good job with it. And then sophomore year, we saw zero growth. Like, he just kind of didn't show us any extra step. What did you think about his junior year with St. Cloud?
Well, I would say, so yes, freshman year definitely came in, like the fact that he was an 18-year-old freshman at St. Cloud, and like I think he still put up like I think over half a point per game for them. Like, even just getting good minutes there at a program like St. Cloud as a freshman is very impressive. I remember specifically having a lot of comments about how negative I was about it, just because he was driving me nuts with how many like stick infractions he was taking like every single night. But sophomore year, with a bigger role, that was the year that he took a major step forward. I think he was close to a point per game. Played really well-rounded game, and like again, like a lot of his points freshman year came from him doing the thing where he was like taking slap shots from the blue line off the backboard, like a fucking like every time. And then sophomore year, he got a pretty nice like bump in terms of responsibilities at both ends of the ice. And I saw a lot of growth there. But like junior year this past year was the one that was like, I don't even know what St. Cloud is anymore. Like they were all over the place. They went on streaks where they would lose like 4 games in a row by like 7. And then all of a sudden they were just like taking out top 10 teams like 5 games in a row. And I didn't know what was going on. And it was kind of the same thing with his game, just in general. He was asked to play a lot more defensive hockey his junior year. So the points suffered majorly. But I feel like at this point, he's kind of become like the forgotten defenseman prospect, where he has some legit upside and he was very well thought of early. And then again, like kind of a victim of them drafting some like pretty high end D-men over the past few years, having got like Brock Faber traded for, and then immediately stepped in the NHL. So like it does feel to me at this point where like he's fallen down the pecking order, but then you remember that he is the pool. And you're like, oh wait, this is actually a very projectable two-way defenseman. To me at this point, with how many guys they have, I wonder if he becomes a guy that like gets dangled out as trade bait at some point here, because I think he's an NHL defenseman, a very projectable one at that. Really good two-way game. Love the transition play. Specifically like his ability to break the puck out, like retrieve pucks and then just break the puck out with like that stretch pass that he loves doing. Or he can skate out himself. In his sophomore year, we did see him actually like activate from the blue line. So there is a legit defenseman there. I feel like, again, he just kind of has got lost in the shuffle here. So I wonder if he becomes a guy that like, hey, like he definitely is going to be an NHL defenseman with some legit upside. It probably isn't going to be in Minnesota. Like, what are we going to, like, could we get some kind of package here, just given how many left shot D-men, probably with like a higher upside or higher floor, to be honest with you, than a guy like Jack Peart? Because like I could see a world of possibilities with where he ends up. But I do think he plays games. I think he is an NHL defenseman. Just trying to figure out what his overall impact and what the profile player is. But I thought he played really well in Iowa the few games that he got this year. So
yeah, I thought
still
so too.
an intriguing prospect. He just gets lost in the shuffle.
I'm just excited to see like how he fares next year in like a full year up against some of these like up against some of these guys at the Wild that are really projecting to play really well in their like second year on what is going to be a better team than last year. So like I'm super excited to see what like how he faces against some of these like top CHL guys who've again played 1 year at Iowa or coming in, because he definitely has a chance to outplay them and maybe force the Wild to make other decisions in that, okay, maybe we use this other piece that we thought was going to be projected a lot higher on our back end as that maybe sweetener piece or trade piece, and we keep Peart in the system. And so I think it all depends on next year, but I've always liked his game. I think he's more than what his points definitely show. He's got an awesome two-way base, and you know, even this year when the points took a step back, like Z said, like I thought he played great defensively.
I should say the past 4 years, I've been very excited about the Iowa Wild. I have never been right, ever. Like, and not just like I haven't been right. It's almost as if every game they get in a huddle, they're like, remember, that dumbass Spoke Z said we were going to be awesome. Fuck him. This
is the year, Z. This is the year.
Let's soak 60 shots against tonight. We'll muster up 12 ourselves. One will go in, and that's fine. Fuck him. That's what it's felt like the last 4 years. So anyways, they could be dog shit again. I have no idea at this point. I'm not going to.
Z's learning what it's like to root for Minnesota sports teams, because that's how it's like cheering for every team every single year.
Yeah, is this what you guys do all the time, dude?
Yeah. For 4 teams. For 4 teams, 365 days a year. We don't have whatever the fuck you have, 13 championships.
Hey, the Celtics finally just we had been waiting for. They were the team that had gone the longest without winning a championship. The last time they won before this year was 2008. So
oh my god,
17 years sooner than 1991. So
how do you make it?
Must be horrible.
It's been hard. It's been a tough couple months before that one.
Why do you think he bought a 30 rack?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's it's great.
UWHL Minnesota won the last championship.
That's
for
true.
Us, so.
Our women's teams don't have a problem. Our women's teams are great. They carry that.
No. Our women's teams have problems.
Our women's team, and up until the day they won the championship,
on the ice, they have no problems. Off the ice is another story.
Yeah, I think for me, Peart, he's like if the Wild, the team, were a prospect, they'd be Jack Peart. Like
that's
could be
very
good.
apt. Yeah.
Like could be great, might be terrible, probably ends up somewhere in the middle. And yeah, so
will the best part of him stay or want to go somewhere else in a year? Right. We don't know.
Exactly.
It's crazy too, because I remember his draft year. Like that was pretty. This is exactly how the conversation went with all of my buddies who were tracking. We're like, we like him, right? Like. Like, yeah, no, he's a good player. Like, What's he gonna be? I don't know. He's fucking good though. It's crazy. Like it's just like stayed the same.
Yeah, I think for him, I think for him the big thing, like I think his path to the NHL is to continue to lean on his skating, because I think you look at the way the league's trending. It's a skating league. The better you can skate, the better chance you have to make it. And I think maybe more so than some of the other defense prospects, like where others might have size or offensive flair. Like I think he's probably one of the better skaters that they have in their defense group. So I think if he can continue to lean on that, like that I think that's his path is, can you defend? Can you play in transition? Can you get pucks up the ice with your feet? It doesn't necessarily have to be shut down defending or over the top offense. Like, can you move the puck? Can you use your feet and make that your weapon?
I've said the comp, and I don't really like comps unless like I'm just watching a guy for the 10,000th time. And I'm like, it just hits me. The one that hits me every time with him that I feel safer about in terms of his defense is a guy like Sam Girard, where the transition game is like, yep, good, all good. There is some offensive upside there. You don't want to rely on it. But with him, I feel way better about the defensive side of the game. But just in terms of like the undersized, like I don't even know what undersized means at this point. It's great for all of us. Whoops. But I feel just better about his like defensive game in general than a kid like Sam Girard, where like you don't really know what you're going to get on any given night. But the transition game's there, and you see the offensive upside, it just doesn't pop off as consistency as he played. We can move on.
All right, we're gonna move on to so again, Jack Peart, number 17. We go then to the final prospect of this week, and I don't know, this one's either gonna be like 1 minute or an hour. We've got the most polarizing prospect of the Minnesota Wild prospect pool. Local boy, Charlie Stramel. And weirdly enough, I'm the highest on him. So
wow. That's actually like as far as being like polarizing, yes, but like we all are kind of in agreement as to like where he is.
But see, here's my take. I think we're all so fucking wrong right now on him, because depending on how this year goes at Michigan State, he's either going to be in the 20s or unranked, or he's going to be in the top 10. Yeah. And I don't see it being anywhere in between. Well, so I'm just hedging more towards, I think he's going to lean towards top 10.
Yeah. And I think you're exactly right, because I think I was optimistic. I would, as a guy who watched Mankato hockey for 5 years and watched the way Mike Hastings coached and the way Charlie Stramel's profile was described in terms of being, this big physical forechecking guy. The fact that he didn't carve out that role in Wisconsin was a little bit concerning to me, but I think
hang on though, Brett, you know Mike Hastings well, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Have you checked Charlie Stramel's AARP status?
That's also true. Well, and Cato didn't want to focus on an in-state talent. That's a different discussion though. But it felt to me like he's type of player profile that succeeds under Hastings, and it didn't work out for him in Wisconsin for whatever reason. But I mean, like you said, there's a chance he could explode this year. He's going back to a coach, that he's played for before that has a lot of trust in him. So there's no excuses left. It can't be, I had felt pressure from being drafted by my home state. There can't be, I was passed over for veterans. I was coached by a guy that didn't recruit me. Like all those excuses are gone. He has to prove it this year. Like he has to be on their top line. He has to be a guy that looks like he should have been on World Junior teams, and he needs to be a guy that looks like a first-round pick.
I don't know that he has to be on their top line.
I think he does. Maybe not, but like top 6 for sure. Like he needs to be an impact player in some way. Like he has to be a guy they lean on. Otherwise, for a first-round pick, I think it's just you need to see a lot more than what we've seen so far. We know it's there, but can it come back is the huge question.
I think he's in a good position to do so. I know his first couple of years at Wisconsin have been kind of tough. We kind of all know that. But I think Michigan State playing under Nightingale and then playing with he's played with guys like Isaac Howard before with the U.S. team. I'm looking forward to see maybe he has a little chip on his shoulder, and this is the year that we see what he really can do, why they drafted him with his size and his ability to skate through the puck. I'm just year, like you said, and I'm excited to see what he can do at Michigan State with a coach he's played under formerly.
Yeah, I mean, more of the same. Where again, like it's pretty rare that you have a kid like Charlie Stramel where it's like it feels as though we've said this is like the opportunity he has to take, and then somehow something happens where it's like, okay, I guess we can't really use that one against him. And it's just happened last like 3 years.
It's because
like,
he's one of us, you know.
It's crazy. Like it's just like
we give homestake people a pass.
It's like they draft. They're like, and by the way, Hastings is now the coach. It's like we're putting an asterisk next to that one as well. We went from like him just trying to play pro hockey at an OK team, or actually that team just sucked his freshman year. And it was like, all right, well, this year they have a really good recruiting class coming in. Like we just hired Mike Hastings, and it's like, all right, I bet we're gonna have to put another asterisk next to this season, and that's exactly what happened. He also got hurt this year. Again, I think the fact that this kid has already played and didn't even get selected last year, he's played 3 World Juniors. That's crazy. Like it's unbelievable. So the talent is not deniable. Like he is a kid that just has a super high floor, and before the going into his draft season after his freshman year, which did not go well. Or right before his draft year, he was looked at as a top 15 kid. Like he was projected to be a top 15 player. And before the fucking season started, me and Hoppy did one of these shows, and it was one of our first ones together where I was like, I bet you Stramel's a kid that the Wild look at. Like, we don't have that guy. Like he's a big, high floor. Like there's some skill, there's some offensive upside, but the fact that his high floor, the size and how mean he fucking is, and the fact that he is definitely a center, or at least projects to be a kid that should be playing center in the NHL. They don't have this in their prospect pool. I bet you Stramel's a kid they target. Of course, it happens after like a very bad year for Wisconsin in general. But I can't really off the top of my head think of a reason this year where we'd add a third asterisk next to we can't use this one. we've pretty much hit every possibility.
It'll be he had to learn new system, new coach.
Yeah, we can't do that anymore.
Yeah,
I do think it's going to go well this year. I just like Michigan State in their style for him, especially where it's just like he can kind of be leaned on in any situation. Again, I don't think he needs to be like a top line guy, but the part I did agree with Brett was like he needs to be leaned on, where it's like, hey, if we need something done, like Stramel's over the boards and he's making something happen. He's played enough college hockey. He's had enough like international experience that he should be taking a big step forward. Like he should be making up for last year. So I think he should be a drastically different player if we still want to believe in him. But like, I still like the player. Like he is a big center, plays a really good two-way game when he's not killing people and being like undisciplined and like putting people through the glass from behind on purpose because he's mad. Which I mean, like when they did let him play last year, he honed that back. Like he pulled back a little bit on that.
He's just rankings just keep going and going and going.
Yeah. I was shocked he wasn't East number 1.
He's a little bit under Leskovar.
Like we've run out. Like this is actually the year. Like we don't have any more asterisks we can possibly throw out there for like this is why that didn't go well. We have to give him another chance. Like this is the one. So I am very confident that he's going to have a very good year. I think he is an NHL player. He might be a middle to bottom 6, like defensive center, but either way, I think he is a really fucking good hockey player. He is a profile player that the Wild still don't really have a ton of in their pool, so he should have a future here. So I like Stramel a ton. I fucking hate the fact that you can't talk about him without someone like shitting on like the Wild drafting in general, where all of a sudden like Stramel comes up and is like, yeah, the Wild have always sucked at drafting. Like, how did we get here? Hate that. But so I still like a lot.
It goes back to if you switch Stramel and Height around, no one says a peep about that draft.
All three of those guys that went for throw Kumpulainen in there. You just reverse the orders. I guess Kumpulainen wouldn't have moved, but like everyone was like, yeah, this checks out.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, Hoppy interviewed Judd Brackett, and he basically alluded to what you said, Z, and that like you with his high floor and what he brings, like how mean he is, and having that underlying skill and experience, it's someone that you don't really want to pass on, because you can find other high-skilled guys out of the CHL or other high-skilled college players even like later in the draft, and look what happened getting Riley Heidt in the second round, right?
And like, again, at this point, we've thrown the label at Stramel. It's like super high floor, but it's not like before he was like leading up to his draft year. It's not like he was a kid where it's like, like there isn't really much upside. Like he had always, historically, he's had like a decently high ceiling. The thing that we're talking about is like, oh, he is a fucking NHL player for sure. But like there was a reason that he got taken 3 fucking World Junior tournaments. There was a reason he put up legit points when he was a junior hockey player, like playing for the program. There's a reason he went there when he was that young. Like he has always had upside. It's just like, wish he didn't choose Wisconsin. Like really wish he didn't do that.
That's a really bad choice.
But here we are.
All right. Well, that rounds it out, guys. Again, top 16 to 20. We got 16 Charlie Stramel, 17 Jack Peart, 18 Ryan Healey, 19 Kyle Masters, and 20 Sebastian Soini. We will catch all of you next week for numbers 11 through 15.